And I called Kyle and I just said, like, the baby's gone. And he was like, what? What do you mean? And I was just like, they can't find a heartbeat. I just remember like gathering my things and walking through the waiting room. He was like, come get me. And I was like, okay. And I just walked through the waiting room with like big pregnant bellies and was like so confused, like not really understanding like how to connect what just happened to like real life. Like it was like some weird like limbo. Probably shouldn't have been driving, but I get in the car and I go pick up Kyle. And as I'm driving, I just see him. It's the most heartbreaking thing. I can still see it in my mind. He was just standing with his bag, his work bag, just like staring straight ahead. And I like pull up in the bus lane and just like put the car in park. And we just like, he gets in the front seat and we just like hug and sob. We were devastated. It was horrible. Neither of us expected it, had ever been through anything like that.
Welcome to The Rainbow Connection. This podcast was designed for mothers who are finding their way through life after loss. Whether you're grieving, trying to conceive again, newly pregnant, or holding hope in your heart for what's to come, this space is for you. Each week, you'll hear real and tender stories of love, heartbreak, healing, and the babies who continue to shape us. I'm your host, Kristin Mundy, a mother, doula, and a woman who's walked this path too. May these conversations remind you that you are not alone, that your baby is never forgotten, and that hope and grief can live here together. Before we dive into today's episode, I want to tell you about Mother Like No Other, a special community for women who are navigating the tender season of life after loss. Inside Mother Like No Other, you'll find a warm, supportive space of moms who truly get it, plus practical tools to help you through the hard days. You'll have access to a private online community where you can connect with me, an experienced doula, and other moms navigating the same journey. Each month, we gather for live workshops to connect and learn, covering topics like supporting your fertility journey, grounding strategies, self-advocacy, and ways to nurture your mind, body, and soul. We also bring in guest speakers to share their expertise and inspiration. The best part? It's only $22 a month. No long-term commitment, just real support when you need it most. If you're ready to feel more grounded, connected, and held through this season, come join us at thedoulalife.ca/mother. You do not have to go through this journey alone. And by joining us inside Mother Like No Other, you won't have to. On today's episode of The Rainbow Connection, I am sitting down with Miranda Stout, and this one feels really, really special because she's actually an old best friend all the way from high school, all the way from my early 20s, which I still can't really wrap my head around that was honestly almost 20 years ago already. A lot of life has happened then. Miranda is a wife, a mom to 2 boys, and an interior designer based out of Ottawa, Ontario. Her journey into motherhood has been incredibly layered, to say the least, marked by infertility, pregnancy loss, a complicated pregnancy, birth trauma, and a long NICU stay. And yet, here she is, living a life that holds both the beauty and the weight of everything it took to get back here. All right, enough from me. Let's hear from my old bestie, Miranda. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Rainbow Connection. Today, I am joined with Miranda, who actually is an old friend of mine, and it feels extra special to be recording with her today. Hi, Miranda. Thanks so much for being here.
Oh, goodness. Thank you for having me. Honestly, I feel excited to be here.
I'm excited to have you. I feel like this catch-up has been due for a really long time, and we're gonna take everyone along with us for our catch-up. How fun.
Right? Yeah.
Miranda is going to share and give us a little window into her journey to motherhood, through motherhood, and kind of a little bit about what life looks like now. But before we hear from Miranda, why don't you just share a little bit about yourself with our listeners? I'm sure they'd love to get to know you.
Sure. So, okay, first, I just want to say, and maybe I should have shared this before we hit record, but I'm so grateful to do this with you. I was thinking about this last night, but I haven't sat down and shared, the last 5-6 years, like in its entirety ever before now. And goodness, it's been 30 seconds or fine. But I'm so glad to do it, with you, someone I love and look up to, but also someone who's gonna get it, you're sympathetic, and this just feels like a safe place to do this. So thank you.
I'm so glad.
But anyway, I grew up in Niagara, as did Kristin. I now, have lived in Ottawa, which is wild, for the last 20 years. It feels crazy. My husband and I have 2 amazing sons. Jackson, who's 4, just turned 4, and Max, who will soon be 2. We have 2 cats, Coraline and Finn. And, life these days, it's busy. It's pretty busy. They keep us going for sure. Lots of traveling and adventures and busy weekends. Sort of, the life we imagined. It's pretty normal. But that's, only just recent. It's been a lot to get here.
We were just talking about how, being a parent after going through trauma and loss is, still hard, but it's, a hard that's, a normal hard.
Yeah.
It has, that element of, trauma in the background always, but,
it's lingering, but it's slow.
It's not crisis, right?
Yeah. It's not survival mode, which is, where I've been hovering for a while, for sure.
It's so funny that you said that you've lived in Ottawa for 20 years, because I remember when you went off to school in university, and I drove up there with her boyfriend at the time, and we visited her, and I just had become 18. Can you drink there at 18, or did we go to Montreal?
You have to cross the border into Quebec.
Okay, so that's what we did.
When you're 18. Yeah, we did. I know.
So we drove all there in the little black Cavalier to go drinking because we were of age. Wow. So this isn't important, crazy, right? But it just gives a little bit of an insight of how well and how long Miranda and I have known each other. But our dummy ex-boyfriends were best friends, and the 4 of us essentially lived life together for a really long time. And now life has come full circle, and we were just talking about how we've reconnected over sad things, but safe people, right?
Yeah.
Anyways, Miranda,
after all these years.
Yeah, I know, right?
Feeling safe. Yeah.
Well, we would love to hear, more about your story and how this journey has looked like for you.
I guess, it didn't really start that much longer after that. My now husband and I met young. I was 19, and he was 24, I guess. Yeah. Marriage and babies, it wasn't really on our radar. We had stuff to do. So, my husband was applying for law school. He was then in law school, and then he was articling. I was getting my own law degree, pivoted majorly to interior design. There was a lot of stuff in those first 10 years. It was 10 years before we really felt ready to do those natural next steps, get married. And at that time I was still only I just turned 30. We decided to get married sort of in secret. Our thinking was no one's going to be surprised if we get married now. So let's just do it and not tell anyone. We told our immediate families, and they were there for a really tiny ceremony. And then we had this great big wedding reception that I just, loved so much. I loved how we did it. And then went on a honeymoon. And by the time we got back, we were okay, now's the time to start a family. This story is like how most of them go, easy breezy at first, no pressure, just sort of like going about life and like hoping for the best and like it'll happen and we'll be surprised and we'll, pee on that stick. And, a couple months and it's not really happening. So I decide, it's time to like amp it up a bit, right? The tests come out, the ovulation tests come out, like everything's more timed, more rigid. Now it's been about 9 months with no success. So, I think it's time to see someone. We get the referral to the fertility clinic. We do the testing. We go in. And, part of me at this time was still like, I think, like, just being hopeful that this was just like a weird step that we were like going to go through. Like, we didn't really need this. Everything was going to be fine. It's just, we're just a couple and it's going to take longer for us. It's not going to be like anything, we really need to intervene. So we sit down after all the testing, like the initial testing, and, everything looks great. Except, Miranda, we've got like a couple of things here, like for you. I was diagnosed with adenomyosis, and I was like somewhat aware that I had this, but it was mild, notable, but mild, like not really concerning. And then the big one, I was diagnosed with diminished ovarian reserve. And that diagnosis just like completely did me in. At that point, like I was aware of infertility and like, couples struggling and, how it was common, like more common these days. People, maybe not more common, but more people were talking about it at least. But I really did not know like the ins and outs. So this diagnosis for me was like so confusing, but also felt like a death sentence.
Scary, right?
It was so scary. It just, like, two big things about it was like, the timeline all of a sudden for having children seemed to shrink. It just felt like, okay, like I have no time to waste. Like, I could be in menopause tomorrow. Like
the pressure is on. Yeah.
The pressure is on. And then IVF, right? It's not as successful with that diagnosis. Like the one thing that is like, you think going into infertility and treatments and, jumping into that world, it's like IVF is the answer.
Like IVF is going to bring you a baby. I think a lot of people think that, like, oh, they're doing fertility treatments. That means they're going to have a baby, but it's not a smooth sailing experience.
And especially not with the diminished reserve because like the whole IVF is just a numbers game. It's not just a numbers game. I shouldn't, but it is very much a numbers game. You need just one, but getting just one isn't great, like, and with the diminished ovarian reserve, you won't like yield as many embryos. That's like fact. So I, of course, just became like fixated. I just all of a sudden had this like extreme amount of energy and stress and pressure. It just took over. And there's also, a lot of conflicting information out there about diminished ovarian reserve. And I just have this horrible habit of seeing, hearing, believing like worst case. Like that's going to happen to me. I'm going to have no eggs like next week. And I just very quickly became obsessed. So, naturally we have to decide what we're going to do. The doctor suggested, and I honestly really do love my doctor. He really talked us through like things in such a way that even though my brain does not handle like receiving diagnosis or information like this like very well, he was great at like and at keeping me in check, and thank God for Kyle, because my husband, same. But we decided we were going to do like next cycle, we were going to do an IUI with injectables just to see, because my diminished ovarian reserve, it was quite low. So he was just going to see, like, hopefully it worked, but really we were going to see how I responded to the drugs, the injectables, because it would make like if we did do IVF, it would give him more information to do the right thing with the prescriptions and you know, the dosage and whatever. So it turns out I did respond really well to the meds. So that was great. And he was seeing that in the blood work and the ultrasounds. And, you know, that made me feel great. I liked doing the treatments. I felt like it gave me some control over something that up until that point I had like very little control over. Like it felt like everything was just out of my hands.
Yeah, and you're doing something different. Like you've been doing the same thing for so long and it's not working. So
it's not.
What are we going to do now?
So, you know, it was a relatively like smooth cycle. It was just before Christmas in 2019. I took a test 2 weeks after the insemination. And like, I think back on this now, like I was still so early in this journey. I took one test once. And like at 2 weeks, like there was no, oh, I'm just going to take a test. And it's been like 3 days. Like, no, I actually managed to make it. I feel like other women in infertility were like, wow, like as if you made it the full 2 weeks.
I could not even I can't compute. I know the day my period's supposed to come and it's like test after test after test, but we could talk about that later.
Yeah. It was like, even though it was like a year in, it was like new into this like really intense era. I felt like of like, you know, trying.
Well, even that too shows that like you were feeling really hopeful about the treatment, right? That you weren't having.
Yeah. So I took the test and, you know, it's Christmas, just before Christmas, and I'm pregnant. And on like cloud 9, right? All that anxiety, all that stress, it just felt like, oh my God, like it wasn't for nothing, but it just felt like, oh, we're so lucky. Like, thank God, thank the universe. Like, how lucky are we, right? And oh gosh, so we meet with the doctor and, you know, he's like, this is amazing. Congratulations. We'll see you in a few weeks. We're going to do like an early scan. That's just like protocol at the fertility clinic. We'll see you for like a 6-7 week scan. And then, you know, we'll discharge you to your GP and your OBGYN. Great. I just, you know, the weeks following that appointment and like the appointment to the first scan, I can pinpoint it to like why this happened. But at some point in the fertility clinic, like treatment, they sit you down and they like showed us like a clipboard of like statistics. They have to do it. They have to tell you like what the odds are, what your specific odds are, you know, and at the percentages and numbers and whatever. And just at the end of it, the last one was like, and if you get pregnant, you know, the risk of miscarriage is like, I don't remember if he said 1 in 4 or 1 in 5, because there is like, both numbers are out there.
Yeah.
And him being like, and you know, that number is actually probably much higher, which you hear all the time. But this is like what's shown in studies. And like, I had heard that before. I wasn't surprised. But I remember my husband being like, oh, wow. Okay. Like, I don't know. It just stuck with me. This like hit the shock on his face of like learning that. And for whatever reason, I just like planted a seed and it like loss, like a miscarriage was just sort of like in the back of my mind all the way, like leading up to that scan. Like I just became increasingly more paranoid about losing the baby. like, I don't know if it was the journey, like leading up to getting pregnant and then the IUI being successful when like none of us really like expected it to work. It just, it started to feel like too good to be true.
Mm-hmm.
So the wait was like, oh my goodness, for that
Excruciating.
Excruciating.
Mm-hmm.
Like when it finally came, like that day, I don't think I took a breath, like until they found the heartbeat, and they did. And I immediately felt better. But again, like this is the beginning of this journey. So I was like pretty naive about like loss at that time. Everything I knew was like loss after hearing the heartbeat is pretty rare. Like we're in the clear. Mm-hmm. So I left like walking on clouds. You know, we went and had pizza. It was the best day ever in my head. I start making all these plans. I have the sonogram in my purse. Like, you know, oh my gosh, we're going to need to move our tiny condo, like imagining the future, like the summer, we had 2 weddings, travel plans, like amazing. We just had enjoyed the holidays. I remember we like told some family that I was pregnant, even though I was cautious, but we wouldn't have seen those family members for a while. So it was like my mom and some of Kyle's like immediate family, and that was it. And then sometime after the holidays, I had an appointment with my GP. It was for the pregnancy. I like cannot for the life of me. I was thinking about this last night. I don't remember why, but she ordered me another scan. It wasn't because anything was wrong. Like I felt great, you know, blood pressure good.
It might have just been like a dating scan because
it was.
Sometimes there's one at 8 weeks, right?
Yeah, but she couldn't get it from like the fertility clinic or something. Like there was some confusion. Mm-hmm. Anyway, she was like, it'll just be easier if I just order you another scan. And I was like, I didn't like protest, you know, like
you get to see your baby again. Yeah.
Right. And like, I just was like, great. So we booked this scan and I'm like, I think just under 10 weeks, like, you know, I tell Kyle, you know, like we'd had so many appointments by then. He's a young lawyer. He can't be missing work every week. I didn't want him to feel stressed about coming with me for this like scan that we didn't even really need. So I was like, yeah, babe, like, don't worry about it. You don't have to come. I leave work early. The scan's like in the afternoon. I go, I have a full bladder. They keep me waiting in the waiting room for like ever, just dying. And she's like, okay, come on in. And then, you know, I'm just like naively just like laying there and the room was like silent. And I just like thought this is how this went. Like, and then she says to me, so you've seen the heartbeat before? And I was like, what? Yeah. Like she's like, okay. And I was like, yeah, like I was just like sort of talking as I normally would, like pretty positively, like not, I don't know. I can just hear my voice. There wasn't like an ounce of worry. And I was like, yeah, I went to the fertility clinic and yada, yada, yada. And she's like, okay, well, just having a hard time now. Do you want to maybe go empty your bladder and I'll do like an internal ultrasound? And I just remember getting up from the table or from the chair and like walking out into the bathroom and just like the adrenaline just start like, oh my God, something's wrong.
Panic. Yeah.
And just saying like, I'm not a religious person, but in the bathroom, just like praying, like, please, 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 like, no, this can't be. Like, no. Please, God, like, whatever. And yeah, of course I get back in and she can't find the heartbeat and she just says, I'm so sorry. You know, she gives me a hug and she's like, I'm so sorry. You have to, like, you're here alone. And she's like, what can I do for you? Like anything you need. And I was like, I don't know. Like, what? So she goes, I'm just going to give you a second, like, get dressed. Do you want me to go down the hall and get one of the doctors? Because the ultrasound clinic just happened to be on a floor. Not happened to be, it's planned. But with a bunch of OBs at clinics. So I said, like, no, it's okay. I want to go. And she was like, okay, well, you need to follow up with your GP or your OB. And I said, okay. And I called Kyle and I just said, like, the baby's gone. And he was like, what? What do you mean? And I was just like, they can't find a heartbeat. I just remember like gathering my things and walking through the waiting room. He was like, come get me. And I was like, okay. And I just walked through the waiting room with like big pregnant bellies and was like so confused, like not really understanding like how to connect what just happened to like real life. Like it was like some weird like limbo.
Like, how am I supposed to transition back to like...
Yeah, like what? I have to... So, yeah, I probably shouldn't have been driving, but I get in the car and I go pick up Kyle from work. And as I'm driving down, he works downtown. It's like a very busy area. And as I'm driving, I just see him. It's the most heartbreaking thing. I can still see it in my mind. He was just standing with his bag, his work bag, just like staring straight ahead. And I like pull up in the bus lane and just like put the car in park. And we just like, he gets in the front seat and we just like hug and sob. We were devastated.
Mm-hmm.
It was horrible. Neither of us expected it, had ever been through anything like that. It was awful. And the baby had been measuring like around 8 weeks. You know, my body just hadn't like got the memo yet.
Mm-hmm.
So I was sent from my GP to like an OB and we like sort of decided like next steps. It was like, you can, they suggested just like wait, like maybe another week or I can't remember the exact suggestion, but it was like wait a few more days or whatever. And if things didn't like start moving on their own, you could take the pills.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't know anything about those pills. A week goes by or whatever it was. And, you know, body still didn't like clue in. So I took the pills. I was like prescribed some like naproxen, like that was gonna help any. I went into like full labor on the floor of our like bathroom. And, you know, that would have been fine, except I had no idea that that was like a possibility.
Mm-hmm.
And it was so intense and traumatic. And I really was not prepared for it.
Mm-hmm. And painful.
Oh my God, painful. Like, I was like shaking on the floor. And Kyle was like, what is happening? Like, he was there and he was not prepared. Like, no one mentioned, you know, I just thought it was going to be like, it was going to induce like a period.
Mm-hmm.
So that was hard. But what was harder, I mean, I really was not prepared for the grief. Like, it was so consuming. And at that point, like, I was not, like, I'm a big emotional person and I've always felt better sharing. So I did share and very quickly it was like, I'm not sure I should be sharing. Like, ignorant comments and like what felt like just like a complete lack of like understanding or sympathy for like what I was feeling, what Kyle was feeling, what we were going through together. And then this like added layer and like unfairness because
just making a horrible situation that much worse, right?
Totally. But it felt like the infertility was like lingering, right? Like it just felt like super unfair after going through like a year of trying, a year plus.
Especially when you have DOR too, right? Because you're like, I just spent 3 months.
Yeah.
like, not that you wasted 3 months, but you're like, now I'm behind 3 months and now I have to heal from this. And it's like,
Oh my
time
God.
is not on your side. And you already feel
Yeah.
the pressure, right? And it's
Yeah.
like, okay.
Yeah. And
Mhm.
no one, like, no, yeah, it doesn't help when no one understands the miscarriage, but also not infertility and specifically like diminished ovarian reserve. I felt so like just on my own in this new world that I didn't want to go to. And the next few weeks, like, were horrible, right? Life went on. I became obsessed with getting pregnant right away. So the fertility clinic did end up opening its doors again. In
Well, yeah, because
like
they would have shut down
they did
for COVID. For how long did they shut down for?
Oh God. So it was like March, and I was planning on doing an IUI like in March. At the end of March, like as soon as we got home from Miami.
That must have been so stressful.
My God. Like, yeah, it was horrible. And like, it was so unprecedented. We really had no idea like how long we were going to be in this like limbo.
Were you guys like trying to conceive naturally in the meantime, or?
Oh my God, yes. But like, I'm not surprised really. It wasn't successful because I was just in a bad place. Like, but they did open again sometime in the summer. By the time we actually got to do the IUI, because of course now they're all backed up. Like, it's like chaos in there. No one really knows what they're doing. I have to go to all the appointments and everything alone, and masks and this and that. Like, it was really not the same experience we had with the first one. And it was June or July, I can't remember. Tried an IUI, epic fail. Like, the drugs, like I maybe overstimulated, and then somehow we missed my ovulation. So we didn't actually even get to do like a trigger in the IUI. So we had to wait a month because of the injectables. And then we did another one, and it just like didn't work out. Sometime in the fall of 2020, I started a new job. And it was a welcome distraction for sure. I was set to start IVF in the new year. My name actually came up. We were going to do it earlier, but my name came up on the free. I'm sure some of your listeners don't know, but
Did you do
Canada?
Okay, yeah, explain that to us.
Yeah. So in Canada, our Ministry of Health will cover one round of IVF, so it's free. It's not free because you still have to cover the medication, but all the treatment itself is covered, and the monitoring is covered for IUI too, but the IVF is, you get one free one, and there's a bit of a wait list. From what I know now, it's like over a year, but at the time it was like 7 or 8 months. So by then my name had come up on the free wait list. I was put back on the list right after my miscarriage. So we were just going to wait until the new year to do it. We bought a new house. We moved in. There was like a lot going on, but we tried, like, I was waiting for my cycle to start. We had tried one last ditch effort at, the natural way before starting this IVF. And my cycle just like wasn't starting. I don't know. And I did not expect to be pregnant, so many like negatives leading up to that. And I was pregnant almost exactly 1 year from losing the first baby. Yeah, it was like magic. We were in this new house. Like, I couldn't believe it. I remember driving into work that day, and I just had the music like blasting. I was like so happy, and yeah, it was like a feeling like no other. I couldn't believe it. I was dreading IVF. I was so so relieved and was like, oh my God, like I also like we did this on our own. Like that hadn't happened for us yet. So, I know there are so many, people struggling with infertility and that like isn't the case for them. So I like, it wasn't like lost on me how like special and important it was. Very quickly, the anxiety set in with my pregnancy with Jackson. It was like a relatively uneventful pregnancy. Like nothing really came up that wasn't like of my own making, from my own anxiety. I was so ill. Like I just have learned now all my pregnancies, I get the most intense morning sickness.
I remember now.
Oh my gosh, it was hell. But it was so reassuring. I made it.
You're like, if I didn't
first trimester, yeah.
If I didn't have this, it would be this other side of hell, and like this hell I can manage because at least I know I'm pregnant.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, I got a doctor's note, and I was given permission to completely like just work from home every day. So I was working, but I was able to like cope with the sickness because at least I was, like had some of the comforts of home. My morning sickness like kind of started to subside by like 16 weeks. I finally started to feel better. But that's when the panic started to set in. I just, I started to obsess. I just became completely paranoid that something was going to go wrong. And I don't think that my husband or anyone in my life really knew like the extent of how anxious I was. I would do this thing where like towards the end of my pregnancy, I mean, I was still very careful about, first of all, I was so afraid of getting COVID. I just, for whatever reason in my head, I thought if I get COVID, we've just spent this last year, like, so everyone isolating and staying home and whatever. And then I got pregnant right as we were sort of like, everyone was sort of like the vaccine was closed. Life was sort of starting to like turn a corner and everyone was like going out. And I was like, no way. Like, I can't. If I get COVID, something's going to happen to the baby. I know it. So I just didn't leave the house. So yeah, I was just so afraid of like leaving the house. I just didn't really. And then if I did, like I did this thing where like if I took my mind, it felt like if I took my mind off the baby for a second, like I might miss something, like something bad would happen. I remember visiting my family for my baby shower. And I would like leave a conversation, like mid-conversation and like go lay down on the couch because if I like laid in this one position, I knew the baby would kick and I'd like be like, okay, I'm good. And then I would like get up again. Like it was like a really like people probably wouldn't notice that I was doing it, but I was like obsessed. And I was just like, I don't know, none of it makes sense. Like even retelling this right now, I feel like it's so disjointed because that's how I felt. Like it was, I showed up at labor and delivery twice because I was, paranoid the baby wasn't moving or, oh gosh, I don't even know. I can't.
Just like an extreme level of hypervigilance, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And Kyle couldn't come to any of the scans, which was especially difficult after the miscarriage and like showing up to that one where I found out the baby was gone, like solo. So yeah, it just, there was this added element of being anxious after loss, but then not being able to like go anywhere or comfortably do anything. Like the joy was really stripped from that pregnancy for sure. Plus, I was still dealing with everything that had happened. Like, just because I was pregnant, the trauma of infertility didn't go away, And, I was still like coping with the loss of some of those relationships and, you know, all of that. But we made it to Jackson's due date. My water broke in bed the morning before his due date.
Wow.
Yeah. And then he came like the next like midnight on his actual due date. So just like 7 minutes into his due date, he was born. It was like not an easy birth. It was sort of traumatic. He ended up being an emergency C-section. But when I think, like, it's funny, it was traumatic. Like I needed therapy after. It was really hard, but comparing his, and we'll get to Max, but comparing his to Max's, like Jackson seems like, you know, not really traumatic at all, but it still is. It's funny to think of.
It was your like 10 out of 10 then. And then your 10 out of 10 changed. Like I always say, like everyone's grief is, or like trauma is on a different scale, right? And like
Yeah.
for some people, their trauma is 10 out of 10 for them.
Yeah.
But then someone's 10 out of 10 might be something so different. And that was your trauma in the moment until
until
we met different levels, right?
Yes. Yeah. Anyway, it wasn't like an unheard of emergency C-section. His heart rate had been dropping quite low anytime I had a contraction. And he was like, I was having a lot of back labor. He wasn't in a great position. So it just like quickly became an emergency C-section. But he came and he was perfect. And just, I remember the later that morning, we were wheeled into our like, recovery room, and we looked out the window. It was the end of September, and there was this like beautiful rainbow, just like perfect and beautiful rainbow outside of our window. And it's literally my most like cherished photo. I can't believe it. Like, it was so lovely. And yeah, the next, like, parenting and newborn babies are hard, but it was perfect. For
it definitely hits differently when it's been a journey, right?
Totally. Yeah.
I've had like such a different appreciation for this little being that you have fought for at least 2 years, right?
Yeah, it had been at that like
3 years?
start to finish, like at that point. Yeah, it was probably like when he was finally born. Yeah, like 2 years and 9 months, basically. Yeah.
Crazy.
So,
while we take a quick break, I want to introduce you to The Haven, my signature support program for mothers who are pregnant again after miscarriage, TFMR, stillbirth, or infant loss. This is not just a course. The Haven is a trauma-informed community program that includes weekly live workshops, expert guest speakers, and ongoing support from me, an experienced doula and fellow loss mom, anytime you need it. You'll also receive one-on-one check-ins, guided journaling prompts, full access to my birth course, Reclaim, and a warm, intimate community of other PAL mothers, a place where you can be real, be held, and be reminded that you are not alone in this. Enrollment inside the Haven is now open, and support is available to walk with you throughout your entire pregnancy. From the moment you see those 2 pink lines, all the way until your baby is tucked safely into your arms. If you've been longing for a place to feel safe, feel seen, and be supported throughout your pregnancy, then the Haven was made for you. You can learn more at thedoulalife.ca/haven. Inside the Haven, your baby is remembered, your voice is honored, and you are fully supported every step of the way.
What did life kind of look like for you guys after that? Yeah. Obviously, you're a new mom. Still had all this history, right? Totally. So what did that look like?
Yeah, like parenting is hard, and sometimes like I would feel so guilty when I would feel like this is hard. Like, I'm not allowed to feel like this is hard. I wanted this so bad. I didn't think it was like fair to admit it. But Jackson was like such an easy, sweet, amazing baby. He's like so cute and smart, and we had such an amazing year, like just raising this little guy and like feeling all these firsts. But of course, like tugging at me was that like I always wanted more than one, even more than two kids. And so did Kyle, like very much wanted like a bigger family. And I remember coming home with Jackson and being like, oh my gosh, like now he's here. Like within days, and I think this is the hormones for sure, but like thinking about having to go through infertility again to bring him a sibling, I was like, what? And I remember like wanting to like just hit myself, like be like, hey, you know, like slap myself over the wrist. Like, what are you doing? Like, you just got home. You don't like give yourself a break, girl.
Like have a breather.
My God.
Let's just like relish in this baby for now.
Yes. Yeah. But it's just like, it just goes to show how insanely like prolific and like unique infertility is, right? Like you can't put it away. It's so hard.
Well, this is the hard part for women, especially because it's like, you know, at a certain time that your time runs out, right?
Yes, and especially with my diagnosis. I was just thinking that. Yeah.
Like, I remember feeling that way with Senna, too, being like, I can't believe if I want to have another kid, I'm going to have to do this all over again. I don't really feel ready to do it all over again. But I actually have no choice because you're like,
that's it.
I might not have the choice eventually because time is just going to like take that away from me.
Totally. So, you know, Jackson turns a year old. And I'm thinking, like, I don't know if I can do this again. But at the same time, I was super determined to do it again.
Yeah.
So Jackson turns a year old. We celebrate. I knew that I would need another referral, like to see the fertility doctor again. And to get that referral, I would have had to have been trying for 6 months. Of course, I could fib, but I was like, no, I'm going to give myself the 6 months because we did it the first time, right? Like, it took a while, but I
you
did
know
do
it's
it.
possible.
Yeah. I did do it. So I had that in my back pocket, and I was like, I'm in a rush, but I'm not like, I would be okay if it didn't happen tomorrow. We have this toddler who is like wildly busy. And I remember thinking to myself, like, you know what? The universe, like, just wants to give me a run for my money in parenthood. And, like, I'm going to get pregnant right away. Like, I was like, it's going to do that to me. And I'm going to have 2 under 2, and it's going to be, like, crazy.
You wanted this.
Yeah. Right? Because, like, that's just how it goes for me. Spoiler, I did not get pregnant right away. 9 months later, I still wasn't pregnant. I got the referral. We were, you know, creeping our way back into the fertility clinic, and I had to repeat all the testing, and it was so hard all over again. A little less hard because, you know, we did feel so blessed to have Jackson, and if he was like going to be our little guy that got all our love and attention, then so be it, you know? But that, like I said, still determined. So we decide to get back on that free wait list. And in the meantime, kind of try some oral fertility medications because like I did get pregnant naturally. Maybe it was just a matter of like optimizing things, which like some of these like optimizing ovulation by taking some oral medication. So I didn't really feel ready to do IVF right away anyway. So this felt like a good step. I was like, okay, yeah. So this was in like April, May. Like 10 months after we had started trying. And I found out I was pregnant in Italy, my best friend's wedding. And
I'm remembering now. Okay.
Yes. And I wasn't expecting it. I had some spotting, so I was like, okay, my period's starting, like, no big deal. I'm here in Italy anyway, like, you know, whatever. Like, let's just enjoy this, like, beautiful trip with my family and our little, you know, Rainbow Jackson. And but then the spotting sort of stopped, and it was like, what is happening? And it was starting to feel like kind of weird. And so I bought like a pregnancy test while I was there. It cost me like €25, which seems crazy for one single test. And my God, it was positive. I couldn't believe it. But then, so I go like spend like this, you know, for like 2 weeks. I spend like this week like feeling amazing. And then on our last day there, it just started bleeding. And I, you know, devastated like all over again. I think what was harder this time was that like I didn't really want to share with anyone. Like the first time I did, I was more open for sure, but like not even with like really like the people closest to me. And I've seen you use the phrase before, like it's dangerous, and it felt dangerous. It really did. I didn't want to like open the door to like the ignorant comments,
more pain, right?
Sympathy. Yeah. And like, oh, well, at least you have Jackson, or, you know, just the hurtful things that people say because they just don't really get it. After my first loss, and this is hard, but I remember someone saying to me, like, lots of people have miscarriages, and it wasn't really reason to like act the way I did, or like essentially like, so what that you like. It really stayed with me. I had such like an immense guilt and shame. Like, I know I had been irrational and like had like unintentionally hurt like people that I loved while I was trying to like navigate all of it, like the infertility and the pain and the trauma. And that I give myself a lot more grace now, you know, but at that time, that comment just made me feel like my trauma and journey was like unexceptional, and I shouldn't have like burdened people in my life with it. So I really felt like I had to be more guarded to protect myself. So that second loss, I just was really quiet about it. There were very few people I told. But like, again, moving on, right? So we try again. We waited a month. We took like a month off. We took the pills again. Pregnant again. Oh my God. What? Like, what? How could this be? Right? Like, okay, sure. Back in the clinic, they, you know, scheduled my scan, my heartbeat scan, at like 7 weeks. But just before that scan, I started bleeding again. Devastated again. But like, just feeling like, okay, well, I've been here before.
Almost like I know how to do this.
Yes, like, okay, here we go. Also, it just felt like there was like not as much time to grieve or like sit in it, because we have a toddler running around. So I just back at work, like my husband's practice and amped up like a lot. We were busy. And
like, gone are the days of like lounging on the couch and binge watching TV, right?
Yeah. I mean, I took some time, but it wasn't, it wasn't quite as difficult. But then I would sit in like the fact, like, oh my gosh, this has become your reality. So like something that like completely knocked you out, you know, 2 years ago is now just like, you know, you're just kind of like able to get through it so much easier. Like, what a thing, right? Oh my gosh. And then anyway, so we try again right away, like next cycle. And I found out I was pregnant a third time in 4 months, or 4 cycles, I should say. And I was pregnant with our son, Max. And, you know, sorry for the cuss, but like it took me so long the first time. And then to get pregnant back to back to back was such a mind fuck. Honestly, like I was grateful, but at the same time, just like, what is going on?
It's just like really like hard to understand, right? Especially after like doctors have probably fear mongered the hell out of you and like made you question your whole entire life and like if you were ever going to even be a mother, right? And you're like,
yes, none of it made sense. So of course the anxiety seeped in like right away, immediately. But this time around, everything was going great. There wasn't any bleeding, you know.
Did they have you on like progesterone this time or did they do anything different?
Yeah, so I went on the progesterone right away. It was like protocol at my fertility clinic. So all the times that I was bleeding, I was like on progesterone. I was on progesterone. So it didn't feel any different, but things were going great. The baby looked good. And at 7 weeks, I was in the ER because I had a big bleed. And that was the first time I saw the baby, and the baby looked good. And I was just like,
or?
It was, yeah. So and then this whole sort of thing kind of just continued on and off for like the whole first trimester. I was super sick again. But I would have these days where I would bleed and I wouldn't. And on one scan, there was 2 of them. On the next scan, there was 1. And then there was 2 again. And they were not really growing, and then 1 disappeared, but the other one never went away. And eventually, in my second trimester, at some point, I can't remember, it was just before the holidays, my OB it's not an MFM, but his clinic is in the hospital. So it's part of one of our hospitals here. And that made me feel great because there are a bunch of MFMs sort of in the same like practice. It's like clinic, I should say. So he actually was on parental leave for a couple of weeks, and I was seeing an MFM who was covering for him. And she was like, listen, like, this hematoma is not going away right now. She's like, it might go away. It has not so far. And it's behind your placenta. So, you know, you got to start taking it easy. You know, no lifting over 10 pounds. Try and stay off your feet. You know, life is like, you know, life can continue. You just, you know, it would be wise to just try and chill out if you can. My son,
the biggest like memory.
Oh my gosh. And she put me back on the progesterone. I came off like when I hit the second trimester at some point, but she put me back on. It was just before Christmas. We were going to see my family, and that gave me a lot of relief because there were going to be extra hands. Jackson is just the craziest little boy toddler, like so much energy. And it was so hard not lifting him. He didn't really understand. He was just 2 years old at the time. He, you know, our house is a lot of stairs. So I was just really excited to see my family and like have some hands and some help and like not have to cook every meal, or, you know, Kyle's, a break for Kyle for work was going to be nice. We'd also planned this little baby moon. We were going to leave Jackson with my mom and go to a spa like close to Niagara. And, you know, we did all that and it was great. And I felt rested, and we came home back to Ottawa. And I remember I took a week off work after Christmas. So the last day I worked was December 21st of 2023. And I actually have not been back since that day. I was going to go back to work on the Monday after New Year's. So like a week after New Year's Eve. And I spent the Saturday and Sunday before that in the hospital because I started having like a bit of bleeding and some pain and some like really strange discharge. And I was like, something's up. And I was in and out of the hospital that weekend like a dozen times. I don't know, like just in and out.
How far along were you at this point?
Like almost Monday, I was going to be 24 weeks. I was getting extra scans and extra appointments because of the bleeding and the hematoma and like its location and everything and lots of checks and whatever. So that morning, the Monday morning, they sent me home. They said like, yeah, like, you know, it's the hematoma. You're bleeding again, basically. Like everything I'd heard up to that point, like, you know, everything looks okay, but what's going to happen is going to happen. There's like really nothing we can do. That was really hard to sit with that for 24 weeks. Like as I got further along, it was like harder and harder.
Was this when your mom moved in too?
No, she actually didn't come for a while.
Okay.
But so on the Monday, I had this, the doctor tells me I have this, they do an ultrasound. They check my cervix like via ultrasound and everything looked amazing. He's like, you know, I've seen it before. This is probably, it sucks. And I'm so sorry. This is not the pregnancy you want. It seems so unfair because my first one was like sort of robbed of joy. And now this one was like just so complicated. I was just so mad that I wasn't going to get like still not getting a real like joyful experience. And he was just like, but like, you're going to come out of this with like a baby. Like, you know, you're going to be fine. Everything looks great. I was like, okay, just trying to be positive. And I went home that night and everything seemed better all of a sudden. Like there was no more spotting or pain or whatever. And we decided while I was away, like we were at my mom's house, that we were going to hire a nanny and like more like a mother's helper for the evenings because I just really felt like I needed help and rest. So that night, the nanny comes over and we sort of show her the ropes and show her what she's going to be doing. And I just remember feeling like so much relief. She left. We put Jackson to bed and Kyle and I like ourselves get into bed. We turn on White Lotus, season 2. So it was like the one with the good theme song, the one everyone loved. And that song is like burned in both of our brains because my water broke out of nowhere, just in bed, cozied up to each other. I just felt this like weird snap. And then all of a sudden, like a gush of water. And I remember Kyle to this day is like, you were so calm in that moment. For like the first like couple of minutes, I stood up and it just like, it was a full rupture. I would learn later, but I couldn't believe it. I knew what had happened. There was no question. My water had broke with with Jackson. So I knew. And I like my brain, I was starting like shouting to Kyle, get a bowl. We need a bowl. He's like, what do you need a bowl for? I said, I need to collect the fluid so they can test it. And he's like, babe, like, okay. We very quickly had to decide what to do. I couldn't drive. He couldn't leave. We had Jackson here. It was like almost midnight at that point. So we called an ambulance and I was like gonna go to the hospital alone until he could get a hold of his parents. We weren't sure they were gonna answer at that time in the night. The ambulance gets there and I'm just standing in the driveway in my pajamas. It's January and like water is just like going down my legs. I didn't put a pad on, like nothing. I just like was standing in it. And I remember the ambulance like showing up, our neighbors coming out and just pure chaos. Like I just wanted to get going. Kyle got a hold of his parents, so he actually and the neighbor agreed to stay in the house with Jackson until Kyle's dad was able to get here. They live like 45 minutes away. So Kyle was able to come with me in the ambulance, and I was silent the entire way to the hospital. I didn't say anything. My whole body was like shaking, and I just stared straight ahead. We got there, and they did the whole like routine thing they do for someone with a rupture. Confirmed that it was indeed a rupture, and then started the antibiotics and the steroids, and it was the middle of the night, so they just kind of like wheeled me into a room. I was admitted, and they sort of said, you'll speak to someone about like what's next, like over the course of the like night and into the morning. I wasn't in labor. They did a cervical check, and it was still closed. And to make a really long, horrible story short, I remained in hospital for almost 3 weeks before my placenta started to erupt, and I like went into labor. It was an awful 3 weeks. I had to be away from Jackson. He didn't understand. I just felt guilty, like it was my fault, that like I should have got the nanny sooner. I didn't sit down. I wasn't, taking it easy good enough. I did something to cause this, Maybe I should have not gotten pregnant back to back to back. Like that's why I had a hematoma. Just, the blame game. I hated being in the hospital, but I loved being in the hospital. Like, I didn't want to be there. I didn't want that to be my life, but I liked the security of just being close to what, what I thought would help get him here if he was going to be coming early. They told me, no matter what, I was going to deliver around 34 weeks, maybe 36, if I didn't go into labor before that. Just because it's like the safer course of action with PPROM. And I was fully prepared to stay in the hospital that long, even though it meant that I would be away from Jackson.
Did they give you the statistics, though, of like after your water breaks, the likelihood of you going into labor soon is like pretty high?
Yeah. And then I don't remember what they are exactly, but I remember the first couple of days are like the highest risk. And those days came and went, and I was feeling, pretty good. I think the absolute worst part of this whole thing was when the neonatal doctors come in and talk to you about like the NICU statistics and like what it means when your baby's born at 24 weeks, 25 weeks, 26 weeks, like, and so on. Oh my gosh. It is like
so overwhelming.
So overwhelming. I actually had to tell them to leave. I was so sleep deprived and anxious, and like I physically felt sick when they were talking to me because I could not process what they were saying. I was hearing it, and oh my God, how awful I felt. My husband, during this time, he took the 2 weeks off work, and his parents came every night and stayed with Jackson while he came and slept with me at the hospital. Every single night. When I did go into labor, it was the middle of the night, and thank God he was there. It was so hard. Max after my water broke, he flipped actually and was breech. And so when there's no water, it's obviously very hard for them to move around. So he remained breech until delivery. So it was an emergency C-section. But it was just like everything that could go wrong went wrong. They couldn't get the IVs in my arm. They couldn't get the epidural. The anesthesiologist was, here. And like, it was just so chaotic. Nothing about it was peaceful. Of course not, right? And I was so uncomfortable for my C-section. He was really wedged in there. They ended up needing to do like an inverted T incision, and he was really stuck. And oh God, by the time it was all over, I was so exhausted, and I never even got to a glimpse of Max until like I was so drugged as well. I was having such a hard time during the C-section. They gave me a lot of drugs, like narcotics. And by the time I like sort of came to, I just had no idea what was going on. Or even like if the baby made it. I didn't get to see Max until like the next day, like sometime later. I wasn't able to get over to the NICU.
How many weeks were you at this point, Miranda, when you delivered?
Sorry, that's a big word. I was 26 and 3. Yeah, it was terrifying. And I don't want to talk too much about the NICU because I feel like that's a whole other, like we could do a whole podcast, honestly, just like a whole day, just talking about that. We were there for 95 days.
Wow.
We were thankfully in Ottawa, and I'm so blessed to be where I am for this situation. And there are multiple hospitals, and this hospital I was in, the General, had like a level 3 NICU. There's another hospital which we were eventually transferred to with like a level 2 special nursery. And oh gosh, I think there's like a bit of a misconception these days because like medicine, especially with like premature babies, has come so far, right? Oh, yeah. So there's like a lot of babies like do make it, but there's not a whole lot of talk about like what happens specifically in the NICU. And each day is like one step forward, 2 steps back, one step forward, 2 steps back. So yeah, like the thing I think is that a lot of people just think that, okay, yeah, so the baby was born early, they'll go to the NICU and then they'll be fine and they'll come home. Like that's not the case, like a lot. And
the NICU is super traumatizing.
It is like,
it's like that every day, honestly.
Every day. And like those first few days, I'm like, reeling from the birth.
Yeah, like tell me about how it was for you to kind of come out of this like drug-induced state the next day and know that your baby did make it. It's in the NICU. What was that like? What kind of like things did they say to you about him or what to expect?
It's, it is really a blur. I mean, so I wake up and I'm like just so confused about like what happens next, right? Like this is uncharted territory for me. They tell you like your baby will go to the NICU, but they don't really say a whole lot more about like what that looks like for you as the parent. I had a C-section, so I was in the hospital for 3 days. I couldn't walk. My first C-section, C-sections are hard, but I bounced back and felt great, like relatively quickly. This one, like I was in rough shape, probably because my mental state was also completely shattered, but I like needed to be wheeled there. My husband was still going back and forth with our son. So, I was there those 3 days. I spent a lot of time at the hospital alone, and a nurse would have to take me over to see Max. And I would spend a few minutes there, and I was so completely overwhelmed. And I regret this so much now, but I couldn't stay. Like, I was like, I need to get back to the room where I've been comfortable for the last 3 weeks. I'm too anxious here. I can't touch Max. I can barely see him because I can't see above. I couldn't stand to see in the isolette, and they would lower it for me, but I was too afraid to touch him. He was hooked up to so many machines. He was intubated and had a PICC line, and I all these things. It's such a steep learning curve about what's being done to him to keep him alive. But one thing I knew was I loved that baby so much, and yeah, my life would never be the same if he didn't make it. So I'm back to, what can I do? What control do I have over this situation? And that's when I became obsessed with pumping. So that's how I spent the last, those 3 days in the hospital, just pumping round the clock to get him milk. And that's what I did. And then, my mom came. This is when she came into town. And it was time for me to go home. And I had an absolute breakdown leaving the hospital without him. I remember she wheeled me out in my wheelchair. My husband pulled the car around. And I remember staring out into from the entrance of the hospital to the waiting drop-off area. And I was mad, Kristin. I was mad at the world. I just hated that this was my reality, and that my poor sweet baby was up there without me. But I knew I had to go home. It wasn't healthy for me to stay there anymore. I needed a bit of normalcy, even though that wasn't going to be possible, right?
And sleep, and
yeah, just
you just had major surgery too, right?
Yeah. And very quickly though, we got into a groove of caring for Jackson in the morning, bringing him to daycare, and then heading right to the hospital. I would spend all day there. There was no one in the world that was going to stop me from going there. Every second that I could be there, I was pumping around the clock. My fingers were raw from washing and sanitizing all the parts and pieces. And I was hyper organized with all my stuff, carting things to and from the hospital. That's all I felt I could do. And I was going to do it perfectly. I was not to be messed with, But those early days, it's heart scans and brain scans. And is he going to have, or how are his lungs? Are we taking the breathing tube out? Is he going to start CPAP? Oh my God, the amount of medical terms I learned in such a quick time. It was wild. And the brain scans and the calls in the middle of the night, and the setbacks and
I think from my limited understanding of NICU, the brain scans is just to continually check if they've had a bleed, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And just okay, this baby made it, but what's this baby's life gonna be like? What is our life gonna be like? Hoping for the best, just everything completely out of your hands. I thought infertility was gonna be my challenge,
your big thing.
Yeah. The NICU was beyond. And I did not feel supported. I felt supported in some ways, but not really in others, because people have such a limited understanding of what happens there. And I think on some level, like, people don't really want to know. It's too hard. You know?
It's totally true. Like, even when we talk about like losing our babies, people just have this like
Yeah.
weird discomfort of being uncomfortable. And it's like, well, how do you think I feel?
Yeah.
Right?
And not every NICU is like this. But what makes it even more challenging is, like, your baby's not the only baby that's there. And a lot of NICUs are like open rooms.
Like a big room. Yeah.
A big room. So especially when they're like in the most early and intense stages, they're usually in a big room where there are other babies that are also sort of that same gestation or whatever. And it's impossible not to take on what's going on with the baby next to you or across from you. Like, you hear and see so much pain and trauma. And gosh, it was hard. Like, so hard.
Were you able to meet like other NICU parents at that time?
Yeah.
Because obviously if you're living at the hospital, I would think that some of those parents would be too, right?
Yeah, a couple for sure. And that was like lovely. I also would describe it though as dangerous, because like not every NICU journey is the same. And if yours is going worse or better, there's like guilt or sadness, comparing. And I found that really difficult. So I was sort of like, I kept to myself. I wish I didn't.
Well, and also you are in survival mode. Like, it would be really difficult to be holding any space for anybody else. Like, it's almost like I am focused. I have to stay focused.
But, to sum up all the hard stuff, there's a lot of joy in this story as well. Max was what they call a feeder grower. Or he basically just I just every day I'm so grateful. He all his scans, eyes, heart, hearing, brain, lungs, all normal, like all came back good. And he really just needed to stay there to rest and to grow. And that's what he did. We had one big scare when we thought he had neck, which is like, oh gosh, I don't even want to say the right or wrong thing, but it's like a scary thing that happens in the bowels. And they thought he had it, but it turns out his nurse just like put his feeding tube too deep and he was uncomfortable. And that was like our only like truly terrifying day. The rest was just like ups and downs with learning to like breathe on his own and then eat on his own. And then he was transferred to another hospital with like about a month and a half from his due date. And then he came home 2 days before his due date. And it was hands down the best day of my life. His brother, who had not got to meet him yet because he wasn't allowed at the NICU. It was just so incredibly special and like something I will never, ever forget. Yeah.
What was it? 90? How many days? 90?
95 days.
95 days without your kids meeting. Like, that is excruciating.
Jackson, we would take Jackson in the car sometimes on the weekends to drive by the hospital. because we knew like what room he was in, and we would show him, like point to it outside, like be like, that's Max's window. And like he wasn't even 3 yet, so he was like somewhat aware. He knew he had a brother. We would show him pictures, and it, you know, but nothing came close to that like moment when Jackson came up the stairs, and just like the look on his little face, it was so sweet. He was, yeah. And then things were like amazing for 2 months. And then we ended up back at the children's hospital because Max was refusing to eat. And when he did eat, like he couldn't nurse. He had a really hard time latching, but I was still pumping around the clock. Like oh my gosh, the amount of milk. I had it stored all around the city. And we, like, I'm not kidding, I had so much milk. We had it at a friend's house, we had it at my in-laws' house. We bought like a deep freeze for our own house, like just milk everywhere all the time. Like even Jackson knew. Why are you pumping? That's what he'd say. You're pumping again. But yes, I had milk everywhere, and all of a sudden he just like had severe, like his reflux, he always had like a bit, but it had severely worsened, and he was like vomiting up full feeds, like forceful, like projectile vomit. And then he just fully stopped eating, like refused the bottle. We ended up back at the children's hospital, and we ended up being there for three weeks, almost 4. It was insanely difficult, more so than the NICU, because at the children's hospital, a parent has to be present 24 hours a day. So our family was just completely split up again, running back and forth between home and the hospital, and learning like this new diagnosis, and like dealing with like completely unknown again. It was like we had this like little taste of, you know, what it could be like to have like a toddler and a newborn, and then it was all just like ripped away, like, you know, in a short time. In that diagnosis, we learned that in that time at the hospital, his diagnosis, he had developed a feeding aversion, but he had also been breathing sort of funny, and he had some stridor. And you know, we don't know for sure if it contributed to like why he didn't want to eat, but from intubation at birth, basically there was some damage to his airway, and it was creating, it had created cysts in his airway. So it's called a subglottic cyst. So it was life-threatening, and he needed like immediate surgery. He was scheduled for surgery like a couple of days after we got there. The surgery went well. They removed as many cysts as they could. A few of them were quite large, but others were really small. And the smaller ones, it's so complicated, but it could do more harm than good to remove them. So he had surgery. We worked on his feeding, but he still like was not up for it. So he came home from the hospital on a feeding tube, and it was so hard. No one knows what a feeding tube is. Okay, so like hardly anyone anyway. So anytime like I felt like I was always explaining what was wrong, and so I never wanted to like take him anywhere, and I just felt like we weren't really thriving. We were surviving for sure. It was difficult, and the feeding tube, it's like complicated medical. I would have to insert it. It was super traumatic. He hated it, obviously. Like, just all these things that I never thought I'd have to learn. I like shouldn't have had to learn. I was having to do on the daily. You know, my mom made a comment once about like, my God, I wish I had your stamina. And like,
It's true.
you know, that really stuck with me because, yeah, like I needed stamina for what was going on. It was really hard. It's really hard to talk to, honestly, because I haven't talked to many people about this. You know, we were like we've mentioned already today, like we were just in such survival mode for so long. Like it wasn't that long ago, but it feels sort of distant at the same time because we just like locked it up and put it away.
Mm-hmm.
It's I never really want to think about it again, but I think it's important to share.
Well, you don't have to live there, but you can like visit, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just life is really busy and
Yeah.
it's so traumatic and so big that going there takes a lot of energy. And sometimes it makes you fall apart. And it's like, I can't really afford to fall apart because
Totally.
I have this life and I have two kids that depend on me in a marriage. And
Yeah.
yeah, I totally get it.
All that to say, like to get to where we are today, Max was on his feeding tube until his first birthday. It actually came out on his first birthday. We worked on feeding, like he loves to eat solid food, and very quickly we were like, this is going to be great. Like it's going to take a while, but he likes to eat. So this is good. And we really, you know, worked hard with him. We had amazing care from the children's hospital. They would come to our house like every 2 weeks, and I really felt supported. Despite being like super lonely during all of that time, I don't really know how to say this, but like I felt like people were there for me, but I don't feel like they really understood. Mm-hmm. Anyway, Matt, I don't know where I was going with that.
I mean, you're preaching to the choir because I know so many of us feel like you could be surrounded by people that love you and want to help and still feel so alone in your experience because no one truly understands like what it feels like to be in this mother position, right?
I really did not. There's no one. I still to this day don't know anyone who's had a child on like a feeding tube at home, like in the NICU maybe, but not at home. So, you know, it was unique. When he finally came off his feeding tube in January, life just got so good, and we're still there. Like, he is thriving. He loves his brother. He's talking. He's running around like crazy. He's just doing so good. And we are slowly checking off things like we no longer need, he's had a bunch of surgeries to fix his airway issue, and he will likely need a few more. His most recent one was in July, and he'll have another one soon. So I think that'll be his 5th or 6th. But all the other things, like he was able to get discharged from ophthalmology, nephrology. He's like pretty close to being discharged from his pediatrician who is monitoring his feeding issues. Like it just, everything feels like it deserves a huge celebration. And I'm just so proud of him. And I just like feel so lucky to be his mom. Like he's taught me so much about what it means to be resilient.
Mm-hmm. What a little fighter.
Yeah, totally.
Wow.
He's the best.
I mean, I speak for everyone that's listening. We are celebrating with you. And, you know, you've been his mirror, right? For all those times that he's needed to be strong, you were by his side and you were the person that showed him what strength really is, right?
Thank you for saying that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You were alone, but you guys had each other. just kind of fighting it out. You two against the world, right?
My buddy. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What does life we know what life looks like with Max.
Yeah.
It seems like you guys are on the up and up. How about you and Kyle? Because you guys have been through a journey. And we talk all the time about our babies, but you guys went through this as a couple. How does that show up for you guys now? Are you guys just rejoicing in you've made it?
Totally.
What does that kind of look like?
I think I could sum it up pretty, don't get me wrong. It has not always been picture perfect example of how to support one another. I was not my best self for a long time, but we were really supportive of each other. And I actually he's just so patient with me. I feel I've mentioned, I have super bad anxiety. I swing to the negative. I feel I'm always going worst case scenario. And he just is so good at grounding me and bringing me back to where we're actually at. But, my goodness, I can't say that it hasn't had a toll on our marriage. Of course it has. It would be shocking to say that, I think it would be shocking to say that it hasn't. But to sum it all up, when people ask us that, we haven't seen in a while, most recently, we just kind of look at each other and I feel we smile, and we have without knowing it, sort of said the same things, when others aren't around, we're finally at and I've said it a few times today, we're finally at this normal hard, where we're bickering about dishes in the wrong side of the sink, and not having to think about okay, an injection today or a hospital visit tomorrow, or Max's feeding tube, or is their milk defrosted, or is the baby kicking enough, all that really. I mean, there's always going to be stuff, but that stuff is so heavy.
Yeah, well, it says a lot about the relationship that you have and the foundation you set and the team that you are, right, for able to weather such a huge storm for so long. And I am taking a huge exhale with you guys, because you deserve this normalcy for a while, right?
Still chaotic, but
of course, 2 kids, always chaotic, no matter what. But
yeah.
I'm so happy for you.
Thank you. The babies that we lost, I still think about them so much. I sort of quietly think about them. I said earlier, I've closed off a little bit with sharing as much as I used to, because it didn't feel the safest thing to do. But what I do want to sort of end by saying is that I just think it's so important, what you're doing, giving faces, see, to the statistics, about loss. But, my ultimate goal with my boys and the babies that I lost is just that I want specifically to educate them. I'm never not going to tell them, how, hard it was for us to have them and to bring them, and what, loss and sacrifice and all that. Because I want them to be aware. I don't want them to be shocked like we were. And I want them to be able to support whoever it is in their life that is, going through this. I just want them to be able to be emotionally available and understand and be sympathetic.
And have the hard conversations, right?
Yeah.
Like be okay with being uncomfortable for someone else.
For someone. So if that's how I honor the babies that I lost, like, you know, I think that's a win.
Well, just like those babies have looked up to you before, they're going to be doing it again. And you're doing a really good job of, you know, setting that standard and modeling that for them. So I have no doubt that they're going to follow in your footsteps.
I hope. There's some improvements, but that could be me.
That could be for everybody, right?
Yeah.
Well, I think that's a really beautiful place to end things. And
yeah. Well, thank you.
We'll definitely put your info in the show notes, because if there are any NICU mothers listening to this, I know it's like such a like valuable community, and like we're always searching for people to connect with. So definitely leave those in the show notes. But just want to thank you so much for, you know, letting us see you and witness you and sharing this huge part of your heart and your journey and being part of, you know, this healing collective. And I hope for you that this has been able to help you process a little bit, and also give yourself so much credit and grace for what you've endured and have gone through, and just how amazing of a mom that you really are.
Thank you. I feel a bit lighter today. I can leave now.
I'm so glad.
Feeling lighter for sure.
Well, thank you so much, Miranda. We're sending you so much love.
Okay, right back at you.
Thank you so much for tuning in today. If this episode touched your heart, it would mean the world to me if you took a moment to rate and review The Rainbow Connection. Your words help this podcast reach other mothers who need to hear these stories, the ones still searching for hope, for comfort, and for connection after loss. Every review, every star, every kind word truly makes a difference. Thank you for helping me keep these stories alive. I'll see you in the next episode.